In the lead up to Fiji's general election on Wednesday, a 48-hour media ban has been put in place under Fiji's electoral decree. The election office has confirmed that the ban applies to social media, including to all Facebook comments and retweets on Twitter. The producer and presenter of Radio New Zealand's Media Watch, Colin Peacock, says it remains to be seen how Fijian authorities will monitor these social media sites.
I guess it's all down to how they go about this, whether they really have any intention of enforcing these penalties, or whether, if there are breaches, they're prepared to warn people and so that next time they might enforce these things pursuant to Section 110 of that electoral decree. So we'd have to see.
The penalties for breaking the blackout are a fine of up to $10,000 or a term of imprisonment not exceeding 5 years. Does this seem harsh to you?
Well, they do, particularly the prison term. I mean, here in New Zealand, the penalty, it says, is a fine not exceeding $20,000. So, I mean, that's enough, obviously, to make bloggers and so on who are aware of it wary of what they do, even if they were of a mind to break the rules or disagree with them. So the prison term, yes, it does seem unduly harsh.
What are your thoughts on the blackout starting 48 hours before Election Day?
The period seems so long that you think it could be restrictive of people's freedom of speech effectively and contributions to political debate if effectively 3 days before people are casting their votes, or the better part of 3 days, it does seem like a long time not to have any kind of political activity via the media.
So do you think that the length of the blackout is impeding the public's ability to be fully informed?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. It sounds only natural that people should be, and indeed in Fiji's situation, where there hasn't been an election for some time, would want to be able to discuss these issues amongst themselves on, the forum of social media, without it necessarily being considered a publication for a wider audience or something that was designed to swing other people's votes. I mean, if you did it by email, for instance, copied and pasted the text of the relevant article, and then sent it to someone via email as a personal communication, that would seem to be, you certainly wouldn't want to restrict that. That's just freedom of communication, freedom of speech and expression. So just the fact of, I think people ought to be able to do it on their own personal accounts without fear of breaching these rules.
Do you know if the international reporters heading to Fiji to cover the elections are aware of the blackout?
Well, I couldn't really say, but I would hope so. I would hope this briefing has been made available to them. And you would think if you're arriving in another country, the first thing you would do is check before you leave what are the restrictions I would have to abide by, because in most countries there will be some form of restriction, at least for the polling day itself. So you would hope that they were being made aware of it upon their arrival, if they weren't making themselves aware of it before they leave.
What are your thoughts on an article being published on social media before the blackout period and a person's right to now comment on it?
My personal feeling is if it's done under the banner of individuals on their own private accounts that are named, then people should be able to do that, should be able to comment on the article without it becoming a political act. But we all know that once, the way that threads operate, once something is said, other people respond to it, and then, the debate can very quickly go beyond what was the scope of the original article which prompted it. So I guess if you're going to have a blackout, it has to be a blackout, and you have to, cease all forms of media comment and publication on a certain deadline and adhere to it.
That was Colin Peacock, producer and presenter of Radio New Zealand's Media Watch.